Richard Mille is proud to partner with Konfekt Korner on Monocle Radio. Founded in 2001, Richard Mille has established itself as a pillar of contemporary luxury watchmaking. Driven by a singular and instantly recognizable architectural aesthetic, Richard Mille combines an unparalleled capacity for innovation with the use of cutting-edge materials. Today, its extensive catalogue of over 100 references perpetuates the visionary spirit of the RM001, its first iconic model, by combining audacity, exceptional craftsmanship, and extreme precision. Passion, principle, perfection. Richard Mille.
You're listening to a special two-part edition of Konfekt Korner in partnership with Richard Mille. I'm your host, Sophie Grove. Over the next 2 episodes, we'll explore a region of Switzerland that's long been a place of return and inspiration for artists, nature lovers, and those drawn to creation at its most exacting, the Engadine Valley. We'll reflect on an event that's become a meeting point for people who care deeply about audacious precision and show-stopping engineering.
When you look at your wrist, it's not just about telling time, it's portable art.
We'll flip through a book that celebrates the local craft, creativity and timeless style.
We try to find the red thread and to give the readers an idea of how it is to live here, why so many people come here.
And we'll meet some of the writers, curators and protagonists that make it all happen along the way.
Deep issues are very, very important, but for me, art can also be fun. It has to be playful. Let's have fun and not take ourselves too seriously.
This is Konfekt Korner with me, Sophie Grove. In the winter, Switzerland's Engadine Valley welcomes stylish crowds to a pristine landscape for unique and eccentric adventures on arguably its most famous crown jewel, the frozen Lake of St. Moritz. During the chilly months, this 40-metre-deep water body morphs into a runway for events that bring together culture, characters and ideas. From polo matches to horse races, to the engineering marvels to lust over at the International Concours d'Elegance. The annual event showcases historic and classic cars as they glide across the ice in parades of precision and handsome design. Welcome to Konfekt Korner. I'm your host, Sophie Grove, coming to you from London. And I'm joined on this special edition of the programme by Laura Kramer in Zurich. Hi, Laura.
Grüezi, Sophie. How are you?
Fantastic and really wonderful to be back down from the mountain. We had a really wild time in St. Moritz, accompanied by Konfekt's contributing editor, Robert Bound, where we were at the ice, which is an incredible spectacle on the frozen lake and something of a automobile bonanza jamboree, a really remarkable event.
It's such a good way of putting it because it's also so big. You're really taking in by all of it. So I think the fact that all 3 of us were there, so we were able to, at times, almost attack it from different angles. It was so helpful from a reporting standpoint. I just am so blown away by what a spectacle it all was.
I know, and I think it is, you're right, it's a very sensorial thing. And also, I think just that space of in St. Moritz, in the Engadine, and meeting all these remarkable people is very formative. You come back feeling very inspired, and I think actually is quite a change of perspective, and in the sense that that kind of altitude and that kind of natural spectacle as well can be really, really inspiring, and kind of, you can see how it's a muse.
Yeah, absolutely. The Engadine had so many famous artists, philosophers that come through. They return to it, of course, and you can see why. Everything from the light there, the mountains, the beautiful clean air, the movement, you feel it in every sense of the word when you're there.
Well, I thought we might start out by exploring what draws people to the Engadine year after year, how the pull of that landscape, its light and its culture of patronage continues to be a place of retreat and inspiration for some of the world's greatest thinkers, architects and philosophers, as you mentioned. Rob and I sat down with the CEO of Richard Mille EMEA, Peter Harrison, to discuss their sponsorship of the ice and its significance for St. Moritz. I began by asking Peter how it all got started.
Ronnie Kessel, who is the organiser of the ice, is a great friend of mine, the cousin of a very good friend of mine, and he started talking to me about this 4 years ago. And he said, I've got this thing in St. Moritz, and it's a bit like your event in Le Mans, it's like this and like that. And I said, okay, great, what can we do? And he said, I really need some help with sponsorship and to make it a little bit more broader appeal. And so I came on board and I trusted him to deliver something which he has done better than anything we could have hoped for. I love the fact that we're on the lake, and I love the fact we're outside, and we've got this combination of modern cars, classic cars, collectors. I think it's something that's going to grow and grow. And the location is just awesome.
The spirit of the Engadine is very much here in this gathering of people. The idea that you'd be racing classic cars around the lake really doesn't happen anywhere other than St. Moritz.
No, exactly. Well, and likewise, you don't see a horse race on the lake, or you don't see polo played on the lake, but you do here. The great thing about St. Moritz, it's not just a ski resort. It's a proper town with a lot of history, with a lot of facilities. I think there's automatically an assumption that it's just another ski resort. It's way beyond that. And that's why for us to bring people here and show them our collaboration with the Byler Foundation and the arts, it makes it really exciting.
Peter, thank you for having us. It is a decent view from the Badrets Palace balcony down on the ice. And I guess I wanted to ask what kind of job this does for Richard Mille, actually, the job of sponsoring the ice. There's obviously some sort of confluence of inspirations going on. I guess it's where collectors and connoisseurs meet.
Well, yeah, I mean, our DNA came from classic cars. I think the first magazine we advertised in was Classic Car, which was kind of budget related as well. But also we understood that those people loved engineering. Richard loved engineering. He loved the what went into kind of analog cars. And I think that was why the first event we ever did was Le Mans Classic. And I think car-related events now, we've refined them a little bit more. We bring people here. Some people say, oh, great, shall I bring my skis? Some people say, oh, great, there's a new restaurant. Or some people want to walk on the lake. Some people want to go snowshoeing. In essence, for us, what it does is it's great for the brand, but it's also great for our relationship with our clients because you get to spend sort of quality time with them. It's not just them coming into the store, spending a few moments, then leaving again. They understand a little bit more about us, and you develop meaningful relationships.
And there's the engineering aspect of it. There's the sort of innovation side of it. We're also celebrating this weekend the launch of your second Engadine art book, which is an amazing piece of publishing as well. Publishing, I mean, while driving racing cars around the ice might be a high wire act, art collecting and publishing is hopefully something a bit more constant. Tell us about Richard Mille's link up there and how that sort of splices into your DNA.
Richard has always been about cars, and I've always been about art. Whereas I understand cars, I understand his passion, and he understands my passion about art. I wanted to do more in the field of art. Often I'm asked, who's your competition? And if you're going out to buy a Richard Mille watch today, our average price is quite high, I think around 300,000 Swiss francs. And those people are not our competition. About how those people spend the 300,000 Swiss francs isn't necessarily going to another watchmaker. They're possibly going to go and buy something else. And art is a natural area for that. And for me, I keep learning. For example, the Engadine collaboration and the work we do with the Byler and the work we do with the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. I mean, for me, it's just fantastic. I learn so much. And I get so many opportunities every time I do something like this. to broaden my horizons. And I think that's what the clients enjoy as well. For example, I say to my kids that work in the stores, and I say, listen, if someone goes home from a lunch with you or from a weekend with us in St. Moritz and tells 10 of their friends what a great time they had, and they went to the launch of the new Engadine art book and they met this person, they met this artist, and it's so interesting, that's our job done. They've told 10 people who will come into a Richard Mille store, not necessarily to buy a watch, but to experience the kind of family that we've grown over the years.
You're talking about learning, and it's really fascinating to me because flicking through the book, there's so many incredible artists. This idea of seeing the Engadine through their eyes. I wondered why that's important to you as a brand, and in a way, what you can learn as a company that's creating these beautiful things. They're very innovative, but they're also known for their incredible sense of lightness and sense of really quite unique creations. I wonder what you can learn from creativity and art.
We learn quite a lot from creativity art, and we try and actually bring from art. We did an amazing collaboration with a street artist from Paris called Congo, and we had an idea that we were going to disassemble a watch, spray paint each individual part and reassemble it like a piece of street art, like some graffiti. He was a graffiti artist. And I still today think it's probably one of our finest things we did in terms of creativity. And from the beginning, for me, putting on a Richard Mille watch or doing something with Richard horologically made me smile. When you look at your wrist, and it's not just about telling time, because you can carry a phone around, you can tell the time. But when you look at something and you wear it on your wrist and you look at it and it gives you that feeling of, wow, that's amazing. It's portable art, for me.
I mean, we're already smiling here this morning because of the sheer joy of this event. It's just something really remarkable about this gathering. And I wondered, for you, what is the highlight of this weekend?
I love seeing everybody on the lake and everybody enjoying themselves in the sunshine, in the cold, looking at the cars, these great pieces of art. In the garage last night when we were walking around, there was a Porsche 917 with kind of psychedelic paint job on it. And I was like, that's perfect. It represents the era of the car, the psychedelic paint job. It's just a beautiful piece of art. I think when people see that and understand that, they understand more about Richard Mille.
That was Peter Harrison, CEO of Richard Mille, EMEA. You're listening to Konfekt Korner.
Sophie, as we just heard from Peter, he has a deep passion for art, and Richard Mille's association with art and culture is very well documented. Over the ICE weekend, we had the opportunity to also attend the launch of the second volume of their book, Engadine, An Art Journey, edited by Christine Halter and, of course, published by Richard Mille. The book presentation took place in the heart of St. Moritz between the Culm Hotel and the Country Club. It was a powerhouse panel, really. What were your takeaways from the launch? Because you got to meet some of the women beforehand.
I mean, such a remarkable gathering of minds. And I think it's a reminder also how the event, the ICE itself, is really a kind of gathering point of artists, writers, designers, architects. It really is interesting that it kind of becomes a fulcrum for that set. But the panel was great because there's this incredible association with the Fondation Baylor in Basel, who co-published the book, giving their interesting insights into art and the Engadine. But also Ladina Flor, who is owner and the kind of driving force behind Villa Flor, a really remarkable, very art-inspired guest house in the valley. And she gave her perspective on how this kind of idea of hosting, bringing art together, this idea of seeing and experiencing art in an unusual and informal context of a sort of guest house or home, really, like a kind of enveloping sense of just sort of lolling on sofas around these remarkable pieces of art that she's collected over the years. And then Christine, who is a great contributor to Konfekt as well, so it was really wonderful to see her. And I had the chance to catch up with Christine to discuss the striking new red linen-bound book she edited. I began by asking her to give us a sense of the idea behind it.
The book is on people who are connected to the Engadine. We had 6 protagonists, And those people, they all have a connection to the Engadine. They are born here, they are from here, they live here, or they come here to work. They come here to work on their art. They come here to exhibit art in their galleries. They live here because they have a hotel, they have their business. And then on the other hand, this is the connection to the valley. They are all connected to art. In the art business, they do art, they present art, they collect art, collectors as well. And the concept is that those people tell their stories. We try to capture their story, to find the red thread, to present it to the readers, and to give the readers an idea of how it is to live here, why so many people come here.
There's a really interesting essay about Gerhard Richter and some beautiful photographs and images that he's created, largely inspired by this landscape, but then also interviews. I wondered what piece really struck you in the book as being evocation of this wonderful sort of locality, and why you think so many artists are drawn, like Gerhard, to this corner of the world.
So Gerhard Richter, of course, he's a world-known artist, and he has now the big exhibition in Paris in the Fondation Louis Vuitton. He's outstanding, and he worked here for several years. He came here every year to work on his paintings, which are based on photographs of the Engadine, and he put color over it. This was his practice for a long time, and you can see places here where he worked. Then, of course, there's an artist which is born here, which is not Vital, and he's very active, and we portrayed him last year. He's very active in the valley. He has his foundation in Adets. He has a wonderful old Engadine house there. And then he has the castle of Tarasp, which is an old castle on top of a hill, very picturesque, because he's presenting his own art, but also his collection of artists he collected over the years. Those are two artists we had in the book.
And there's also an amazing sense of these old houses here in the Engadine that are creaky and beautiful and full of stories, but also full of collections of artworks and very eccentric and wonderful characters. Rolf Sachs was in the first book, but you also have this incredible sense of people living here and living in these beautiful interiors, rendered so amazingly in the photography. Can you give me a sense of what you think are some of the most remarkable houses in the Engadine that you've spent time in?
Yeah, of course, the houses of Not Vital, they're amazing. It's his brother, who's an architect, who did the architecture, who did the reconstruction of those houses, Duri Vital. So his houses are wonderful, and then Duri Vital did another house in Sand, which is the house of Gian Enzo Sperone, who's an Italian-American gallerist who had a gallery in New York for so many years, Westwater Sperone, and he lives in Sand in a wonderful old Engadine stone house with this sgraffito decorations on the walls. Inside you have these wonderful floors, this wooden Stuvetta living rooms with the oven, and he has all the wonderful artwork he collected during his lifetime there in the house. It's really a world, an amazing fantasy. It's not a fantasy, it's real, but it seems like a fantasy world. Yeah,
I think it does feel like a fantasy world here sometimes, certainly from where I'm sitting. Also, I think it's interesting that the book is about dialogue, this idea of opening up the art world meets, the Foundation Mille, who's behind the book, but also Richard Mille, who published the book. There's this wonderful sense of dialogue and conversation around the arts. I think it's very important for the arts to have that sense of patronage and to have that sense of conversation. And I wonder, why you think St. Moritz is so unusual in that, bringing people together and being this wonderful, fertile ground for artists, gallerists, writers, and how it kind of continues that tradition in a sense.
Engadine, first of all, it's about coming here, meeting people, But then, secondly, there's the amazing nature. And this nature gives you a feeling which you really rarely feel somewhere else. It's this divine light which so many artists enjoyed and tried to capture in their works. It's the air, which is just so fresh and so crisp. It's the water, because we have in the valley there are a lot of lakes, so you have water everywhere. You feel an energy. Like Nietzsche said, it's a divine place here. He came here as well and wrote quite a lot of summers. We are now in winter, but landscape is changing, but this energy and this light and you feel it all seasons.
That was Christine Halter, the editor and writer of Richard Mille's Engadine, An Art Journey Volume 2, available now on the Fondation Beiler website. You're listening to Konfekt Korner. We've been hearing about how central art is to the ice and how deeply it's woven into the Engadine region and St. Moritz. This year, the idea expands with the inaugural Ice Art Show, a natural extension curated by Diana Segantini, an art curator and filmmaker from a renowned artistic family, the great-granddaughter of Giovanni Segantini and co-director of the St. Moritz Art Film Festival.
She's a very impressive woman indeed, also a journalist and a broadcaster as well. Rob and I actually walked around the exhibition with Diana, talking about some of her favorite works and how art moves from the cars on the ice to the walls of St. Moritz.
The heart of this project is Art in Motion, an exhibition, so I chose this title. It is very accessible. So I took the vision of the eyes as a starting point. The DNA and the vision of the eyes is obviously speed, beauty, elegance, aesthetics, and the art of movement. So it's about telling different stories in this exhibition. So we have photography, we have sculptures, we've got oil on canvas, and each section tells a different story. So we can really see that everybody can relate to motion. We've got, the centerpiece of this exhibition, a wonderful sculpture by McCarthy. It's called Bambi Snow White, so Schneewittchen. So it really belongs to the Engadine as well. It's a beautiful piece, and of course, I was crazy enough to take up this challenge with Ronnie, saying, okay, in 2 months, you'll curate this show. And I made it, but I only made it because I had the collaboration and the partnership of the local galleries, of all cultural institutions and stakeholders in the Engadine. And I really wanted to create a new platform. So having superstars like McCarthy, Not Vital, Hegarty, and big names that you always need to attract a certain audience, but also have young local artists who don't have a gallery.
This is wonderful. This small work on a piece of packing cardboard, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. This feels very much of the town we're in. This feels a bit like falling out of the Dracula Club at 3 a.m. But that's just you talking, Diana. What would someone else say?
That's exactly what I do. After Dracula, I want to sit on a red bench and, have the full moon for myself. So it really reflects the magical atmosphere of nature in the Engadine. And that's where I grew up. That's where my family, is still living. So for me, the sacred nature is very, very important. And this is reflected in the artworks that I chose as well. I see myself as a mediator, as an enabler. Of course, I've got a lot of these artists who are friends of mine. And I really wanted to tell the story, how important it is, to obviously have the glitzy Ferrari stories with great photographs of Gunther Sachs partying at the palace in the 50s, but also have, deep emotions and deep themes, like this wonderful piece by a young artist from Bosnia. So migration is the most vital survival strategy. This is so deep, especially today. We're blessed to be here in the protected Engadine, beautiful nature. We're in safety. Look at the world out there. And I think it's very important that motion or movement is also linked to very deep themes like migration, like having to escape from a war-torn area. And I really wanted to have these deep themes as well.
This work that we're looking at now, Dan, is a patchwork quilt, I suppose, a sort of mosaic, a fabric mosaic. And I guess the sky perhaps is sometimes the only thing that we all share in common, and it's a picture of the stars. It's a beautiful work, and I've seen a lot of people stopping and looking at this, especially because yes, it's a bit of a screech of brakes.
Yeah, I think, we just, and that's the beauty of art, to have such a depth, to make us dream and I'm happy you saw the stars in this very strong piece of cloth that is, if you touch it, it's very, very soft. It's like so delicate as well.
And all of human life and all of art seems to have some grounding in the Engadine. It is a specific place with a rich art history and many brilliant artists, but it also seems to have, if not a through line, people feed off each other as artists. It goes through history and it comes straight back up to date, right? You're dealing with a considerable place here, right? Does it feel like that?
Indeed. But I think, of course, deep issues are very, very important. But for me, art can also be fun. It has to be playful. Let's have, fun and not take ourselves too seriously. Be grounded, Look behind, scratch the surface. And I think that's the beauty of this valley, to be in a very safe valley and be observant and be grateful to be in this kind of environment.
Thank you, Diana. You're listening to Konfekt Korner. We've focused on the sidelines of the event. I think it's time now to hit the frozen lake and check out some cars. It's such an incredible event because you can walk around and run into some of the most brilliant minds from the worlds of culture and design. I bumped into the internationally renowned British architect Norman Foster, who served on this year's jury, and of course I had to ask him about his deep passion for cars.
I'm a complete freak for cars. They're beautiful objects. They tell a story of the period, of the technology. No, they're once described as rolling sculptures, and a great celebration here of that tradition.
And you are a resident of St. Moritz, and we often pass your beautiful house in town. Do you think this event really sums up the sort of eccentricity of where we are? Because it's so unique, it's so joyful.
Well, there are lots of traditions of people hurtling down mountain slopes, on a tea tray, the Cresta Run, the lakes, the nature, the sun, the extraordinary architecture. It's a valley, 45 kilometers before you get to the lower Engadine. Amazing scenery, amazing villages. It's a region as well as a place.
And it's such an unusual kind of meeting of minds here, this great artistic tradition, but then,
you just look at the artists and the philosophers who have flocked here and made it their base, a point of inspiration.
Arguably the world's most famous architect there, Norman Foster. I think it would also be a good time, Sophie, to explain the safety of the event, because I don't know about you, but I had some questions about the logistics of having these very heavy machines parked and racing around the track, plus all the people in attendance as well. I had the chance to speak to another celebrity, if you will, a woman who can't walk around St. Moritz without being stopped. She is the very beloved CEO of St. Moritz Tourism, Mariana Jakic. I spoke to her about the impact of the event on St. Moritz and how they know the ice is thick enough to host it.
I remember in 2019, Marco Macaus and Ronnie Kessel came to me with this idea, which originated in 87. I think it was a group of Cresta drivers. driving around the lake. So they came with this idea to me. I was new brand manager. I was super young and super excited about the project. And what we assumed, it would start small, and it became one of the most important events for Samoritz, not only in winter but also in summer. And what I really appreciate about this event is it brings different worlds together. So it's not only, of course, we have the car collectors and it's a separate world, but there are so many young people coming to Samoritz just because of this event, families, and plus then the entire world. And I think this is what has always made Samoritz so special. Different cultures and different people come together, and this is, for me, I would say, the core of the success of this event.
In terms of the physical ice, how thick does it have to be before you say it's safe to do the event?
So we need about 30 centimeters to open the lake and to allow events on the frozen lake. This year we have really good quality of the ice. It's about 50 centimeters. So we work also closely with ETH. And they support us on this. And we have actually a separate company called Seeinfra, dealing only with the infrastructure on this frozen lake. So it is a new village coming up during these 8 weeks in winter, where also other events on the frozen lake happen. So it's like a new Samoritz, we call it Lakeside, happening.
That was Mariana Jakic, the CEO of St. Moritz Tourism. On the next episode of Konfekt Korner in partnership with Richard Mille.
So many things are really similar, the Formula One and the watch world. I'm so happy to be part of it in the incredible moments like victories, but also difficult moments. The idea is also to show the people that you can do whatever you want.
We'll hear from a Brazilian driver, Felipe Massa. Also in the next episode.
We are following a 1960s Lotus. How are we sliding?
We are sliding very well. She slides like a queen. I'm happy.
Slides like a beauty.
Konfekt's Rob Bound will join me in the studio to discuss all things engines, metals and adrenaline. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Konfekt Korner. My thanks, as ever, to Rob Bound for his reporting and to Laura Kramer for joining me from Zurich. Konfekt Korner is produced and edited by Carlotta Ribello and Steph Chungu. This episode was produced by Laura Kramer. Until next time, from me, Sophie Grove, goodbye and thanks for listening.